Latch the windows, lock the doors, and put the kids to bed. It's time for another episode of
Tales from the Garage!
Hey guys, I'm back with my much threatened next video. I was talking about doing a video showing a handful of box sets, and so I thought I would do that. I only pulled out like 5 box sets, so I'll talk just a very little about them, and maybe start a series. I don't know. I don't have as many. Well, I don't really have that many, but still. Just decided to start the ball rolling. To do a little cross section. I have so many Miles Davis box sets. I thought I would just show one this time, and then if I do another box set, I'll show another batch. But let's start with, for no real reason, something that I thought was a box set that isn't. I bought this. It's a live album of Klaus Doldinger's Passport on Stage, 2008. Live CD release. It's a 2 CD set. I thought this was, well, you know, I guess when I bought it online, you know, I saw a limited deluxe version, so I thought it was, you know, an extra CD or something like that. And basically, and the packaging will kind of fool you. It's a good live album, by the way, you know, from the then current lineup in 2008. And if you go back to, they had a lot. They've done lots of live albums over the years. I think the first one was around 1980, called Lifelike, and you could hear that it's a bit rough. So, you know, the technology for live recordings has really improved as the years progressed. And they had another one that was, I want to say, was it 1988 or 1990? They did another single disc live album that was really good. You know, very good, high quality sound. Sounded essentially like it could have been a studio release. And the same for this. You know, they just got to the point of recording technology for live concerts. Just got really good. So, you know, and this is, again, you know, a typical Passport kind of live presentation. Them doing a lot of the best known tracks over the years on the one disc, and then the second disc is also live, but it's Passport on stage with the WDR Big Band, which is, I don't know, are they German or European? The WDR Big Band has done a ton of recordings with jazz artists. So if you're familiar, they did one with Joe Zawinul not long before he passed away, which was really interesting to hear the Zawinul pieces done with the big band. And I'm pretty sure it was the WDR Big Band that did a live album with Azimuth, but they didn't call it Azimuth by name. But it was John Taylor, Norma Winstone, and Kenny Wheeler. And pretty sure it was a WDR Big Band. As a matter of fact, I think they did two albums with a big band. Neither one they called Azimuth, but that's basically what it was. So if you're familiar with jazz at all, European jazz, you've probably come across the WDR Big Band. So this is nice. You got one that's just Passport, one CD that's just Passport Live, and then another one that's a WDR Big Band. But the only deluxe thing, and that's on the standard release too, a 2 CD set. The only deluxe thing about this, in reality, besides the box, which takes up space on the shelf, is this that came with it, which I put on only once so far. And that is a baseball cap that says Passport on it. And it's got, I don't know, a little green logo, to the extent that you can see it, of Klaus Doldinger, or a guy playing saxophone. Little cartoony thing on the back there. I've never worn this in public, not that I wouldn't, but you know, it's one of those things that you know, you just want to keep pristine, and And if I wore it out, nobody would know what the hell it meant anyway, unless I was at a jazz concert, maybe. So, you know, it's basically taken its home in the box. So that's the reason for the box. They just kind of shoved the CD in with the cap. Good album, though. Moving on to number 2, because I want to really keep this under a half hour. By the way, I'm not playing any samples of the music because I have a pretty good feel for copyright stuff, and I think between the 5 discs that I'm going to show, I would definitely get flagged for copyright stuff, and they would more than likely just erase the audio portion, so you would just get to see me gyrating and putting my hands up but not hearing anything. So I'm not even attempting to play any of the music, even though I might get away with the next one. Now, I showed this once a very, very long time ago, and this was almost a completely blind buy. Here's this guy, best known as a bass player, Nick Potter, British guy. I had seen a couple online interviews with Nick. I was totally unfamiliar with his music as a solo artist. He was on and off, at times, the bass player for Van de Graaff Generator. But I knew this music wasn't like Van de Graaff Generator because, which is basically vocal prog rock. If it were, I wouldn't have bought it. So I knew it was all instrumental. I guess I had read an interview with him or something just before this box set came out. And all of his solo albums, which I was pretty unaware of, had been out of print. And when this box came out, somebody had bought the rights to it. I guess the Zomart Records had bought the rights to his, almost his entire, there may be a later disc or two that was released that isn't in the box set. But this is fairly inclusive of most of his solo career. Like I said, all instrumental, all different musicians on it. Some of it's a bit rockish at times. The ones that I like better are, he's got a couple that are almost completely synthesizer keyboard oriented, which are, albums that are obviously up my path much more, where he's playing the keyboards. There's not much in here that would really even make you think he's necessarily a bass player, because he's doing a lot of, he composed pretty much all the pieces, I guess. There might be a couple collaborations. But the ones I like best are, there's a couple things that definitely veer into, I wouldn't call it fusion, instrumental prog-ish rock at times. And then a few things that are definitely quieter, more low-key. Not particularly mellow new age, but synthesizer-oriented kind of instrumental music. This was a limited edition of 100. Now, all the albums in here got released individually. So the unique thing about this box set was the box itself. The fact that there was only 100 made, and this is number 86. It's signed by Nick on the back. And it includes some albums more than once, oddly enough. What they did is they... I want to say most of these albums, time frame wise, are probably from the maybe starting late 70s into the early 90s. They included all the albums in a very thin plastic sleeve like this, not a CD thing. So what they included are the front booklets, the booklets that came with them in the disc. What they're missing, I found out after I received it, are the back inserts that would normally go into the jewel case of the CDs that you would get if you bought these separately. Why that's important is in a whole bunch of cases, oddly enough, in the front booklet that would come with the CD, they don't list the musicians. I'm assuming it was on the back of the CD insert, which they didn't include. So, I have to actually go online to see. It's very frustrating because, I kind of paid a lot of money for the box set. But here's what's in the box set anyway. Album called Dream World. New Europe Rainbow Colors. This is one of the longer synthesizer things. And again, all these are just, in the clear plastic sleeves with the front insert, jewel case insert. This is a live album, definitely a bootleg, like cassette quality live album, called the Blue Zone Party from 1991. It was, I guess, like a release party where a bunch of musicians played the material live from the Blue Zone album, but it sounds like it was recorded on cassette. It's definitely like bootleg quality. And here's the actual Blue Zone album itself. A compilation album, which isn't really needed because all the pieces on here are taken off of the albums that are included, but I guess they included it to be fairly complete. An album called Self-Contained. Let me see, how do I want to do this? An album called The Long Hello Volume 2. There was a Volume 1, and I think even a Volume 3, but Nick Potter didn't play on them. It's Nick Potter and Guy Evans. And I think it was basically Guy Evans was the main collaborator that carried on the name of The Long Hello. So I think Guy Evans is on the other Long Hello albums, not Nick Potter. And Guy Evans plays drums and percussion, bamboo flutes, some synthesizers, and Nick Potter plays bass, keyboards, and guitars. Couple guests on here. Dave Jackson, saxes, flutes, and whistles. Giles Perring, additional hand drums on one track. This is a little bit more the rockish side. And then two individual albums, kind of short albums, one called Mountain Music, one called Sketches in Sound, and then I guess for the sake of completeness, because they released them together, a CD combining those same two albums, Mountain Music and Sketches in Sound. They're both short enough to fit onto one CD, and I guess at some point they had reissued those two albums as a single disc, and so they included it here, but it's literally the same as the two separate discs. So far, all that stuff you can buy separately. All those individual albums are available separately. I think I'm missing one. The only thing included is a print. Oh boy. Major stuff falling off the table here. Hold on, because the water fell. Am I going to edit that out? No. Because if I edited it out, it would take another 3 hours for me to... Oh, man. I just destroyed my Bill Evans record. Wow. I did a number on the cover. I kept this cover in pristine condition until just now when it fell off, and it tore the whole top here just by hitting the floor. Wow. That's upsetting because I've had this in pristine condition for something like 30 years. Damn. Oh well. It's not like the music's exactly rare anyway, but it pisses me off. And the cover bent too, just from falling down. That's what, 3 feet to the floor? So anyway, back to Nick Potter. What are you going to do? There's this limited edition print, I guess, made by Nick Potter. I thought there was more than one, but there's only one in the box. And I definitely didn't hang them up. So that was kind of cool. And so that's the one of two things that aren't available if you buy the discs separately. And the other thing, which is the thing that really kind of made me buy the box set, was this DVD, a DVD interview from 2009, which is just before the box came out, sitting down with Nick Potter talking about his music career. Just sitting down, it looks like in a hotel lobby somewhere. A guy who I've seen before, who's kind of like a British progressive rock journalist, I guess you'd call him, interviewing Nick Potter about his career. And an edited version of that interview is actually up on YouTube, so you can see a chunk of it, and just not the whole thing. So I wasn't sorry I bought it. Not a bad CD. Some of this stuff isn't quite my taste, but there's times when I will put on all the discs in there and just play them. They're all on my computer, and I play them from there. But yeah, why the hell not? Every once in a while you get a little bit of that prog rock thing going on. Something I've talked about, but I don't think I've shown. I kind of forgot where it was, but it was right there in my bedroom. This has come up recently as Lamont Young's Well-Tuned Piano, which I bought when it came out. CD of this. This is the CD version, CD edition. When did this come out? I want to say 89, 87, on Gramavision. So Gramavision's not even around anymore. I didn't know who Lamont Young was. I saw, because this is kind of before the internet too, I saw somewhere an article or an ad about the album coming out on Gramavision. I was already a Gramavision fan, so it might have been in something that they put out. And it looked in, I got a description of it, and they mentioned Terry Riley, who I was familiar with. So 5 or 6 CDs, I forget. Each one's an hour. So it's a marathon performance that was given in one day. Oddly enough, when I got it, and I knew that there was, whatever literature I read on it said that there was a booklet that came with it. And I didn't get a booklet, and I'm like, damn, how am I going to prove that I didn't get a booklet, and who do I write to? It just so turned out that the distribution company was a couple towns away, right here in New Jersey at the time. I was very surprised by that. So I thought that might mean I'd stand a better chance of getting the booklet that came with it. And I had to write like a letter, because email wasn't around. I had to actually write a letter saying, hey, I just bought the brand new Lamont Young box set. I didn't get the booklet that came with it. And I waited a while, and sure enough in the mail, I got the booklet. It was a full-size, LP-size thing, which was nice to get. There's a lot of writing. Picture of Lamont. A lot of writing about the music. I guess I haven't read this for a while. I want to read it now. And again, this is something that you have to be in the mood for. Here's a version of Lamont in 1981 playing the piece. I can't really get this squared away here. 1981 doing a version of this piece, which is always long. It's I think minimally 6 hours. And quite a lot of information on here. I have to reread this because I haven't read this for a while. But a nice booklet, and I'm kind of surprised that I didn't have to do anything else, jump through hoops to get the booklet. And I believe the whole album is actually up on YouTube. I know copies are really expensive, and I believe it came out on vinyl as well. I talked about, oh my God, this is the heaviest box set I have. This is the 50th anniversary of Miles Davis's Kind of Blue album. Why the hell is this so heavy? I'm not going to pull out the discs. Hopefully you can see that picture of what's in here. There's discs, there's a hardcover book, there's a vinyl that I don't need. I already have a vinyl copy of it. And here's my second or third vinyl copy of it. Hell, I didn't need the CDs. I already had them too. There must have been something else on the CDs that I didn't have. Here's what they did a nice thing though. Here's the vinyl album, which is the original cover. Not the original back cover though, which you may have seen in my last video. Inside this section, they house the album, and inside this section, now good idea, they house the CDs. And a DVD called Celebrating the Masterpiece Kind of Blue. I've never played the vinyl, and I'm sure I never will, even if I have a working turntable. And I don't think I've ever even taken it out before, because I didn't realize it's blue. I don't think I've ever taken this out of the jacket before. It's thick. It must be 180 gram. I don't know. I'm not going to play it. Why? I've got how many CD versions of this now as well. So it's got 2 CDs of music, some stuff previously unreleased, and some tracks that were scattered across other Miles Davis's albums but had been recorded at roughly the same time as A Kind of Blue. And then the DVD, I think the DVD is the thing that made me get it, and the previously unreleased music, which now, this always happens. Am I going to be able to get this back in? It always happens that once I pull these out and show them, and I haven't listened to them, it makes me want to play them again. Oh man, damn it! Now I can't get this shit back in. Oh, there's a whole bunch. There's a poster in here. Oh wait, there's more stuff. See how prepared I am? I'm gonna have a royal battle getting this back in the box. I definitely need a third hand for this. Okay, semi back in the box. Let's see what else. A big ass collector's edition poster, which opens up even further. There's a few Miles Davises in the room apparently at the time, and a whole bunch of ephemera in a wrapped in a package. Photographs. Gee, I haven't taken these out in a while. I didn't even get them all. I left some back in the book. John Coltrane plays on the record, so there's I'm pretty sure this is still out there. There's Miles. That would be Paul Chambers on bass and Bill Evans on piano with Miles. Coltrane, Cannonball Adderley, and Miles. I showed that one. There's a bunch of other photos which would be pretty impossible for me to fish out. So I don't remember how much that cost. Listen, I'm sure they got their money, for it. A lot of extra stuff, but I think it was the extra. Now there's no way I'm going to get this back in on camera. And I got no room to put it anywhere either. Yeah, it's the extra tracks I bought it for in the DVD on the making of. And the last one I'm going to show, because this is already going a little bit longer than one, is the shocker. Every time I do one of these, I'm going to do a shocker. And that is, the shocker is probably going to be a rock thing, a rock-oriented thing. Box set of Steely Dan, which I bought. Now this I opened today, so I bought in as a member of the BMG Jazz Club, which was probably the last record. I was in the Columbia House Classical Club when I was like a teenager. I was in Columbia House Rock. There's BMG. There's another one. There's another one between that. Before BMG, then BMG, and then there was another one which wasn't a well-known name. Now, this goes to show you how much a rip-off their shipping charges were. Especially when you consider to mail. First of all, this was sent. This box is. I mean, it's not light, but it's not extremely heavy. That has all of their original studio material up to the breakup, and so everything, all those albums. What is it? 6, 7 albums, whatever. I didn't have any of them on CD at all. I think I had one on cassette. So I bought it because at the time it was literally half price. It was $23.99. And the box set was essentially fairly new at that time. And I was looking at this before, because I bought it 2003, so that goes back quite a ways. But the killer was, I ended up spending another $10.20 for shipping and sales tax. Now the sales tax was only $1.44. The shipping and handling was $8.76. You got to think of what the postage rates were in 2003. They're less than half of what they are now. And this was shipped media mail. This probably took a month to get. And so, they would do this. They would have these half-price sales, and you would think you were getting a bargain, but, it probably cost them about $2, $2.50 to mail this out to me, and they charged me $8.76, plus sales tax, which wasn't required of them to do at the time because they weren't based here in New Jersey, so they would collect the sales tax, and I'm sure they would probably keep it too. So that was always the thing to be leery of in these record clubs. And, I was aware of that when I joined them, and I pretty much only stayed in them to get the stuff that was on sale. So, overall I paid $34.19, which at the time was still considerably cheaper than what the set was going for with this booklet. But, the funny thing is when I got it in 2003, I may have played 2 of the albums once each. I don't even think that much. I might have put Asia on, and I might have put one of the early albums on, and that was no. I did have the Gaucho album on LP on vinyl, which I still have, I think. But the funny thing is I put it up. I listened to maybe 2 of the albums in there. How many albums does it include? Oh, I don't know, because there's 4 discs, but there's probably 7 or 8 albums on here. And a handful of like 4 or 5 previously unreleased rare tracks. Never really listened to it until Walter Becker died. So when did Walter Becker die? A year or 2 ago? It made me pull out and listen to them. And you know what? I listened to them a whole bunch of times. And to the point that I, recognized and memorized songs. I listened to all of the albums. And actually copied them onto MP3 and put them all on one disc to play in my car, which I did back then for a while. It's like whenever it was that Walter Becker died. Was that 2 years ago? Was it a year ago? And it was really the first time of me hearing 90% of the songs. Like I said, I had the Gaucho album, which I wasn't crazy about. I had heard most of Asia. I probably had it on a cassette. And a few things from the early days, which I actually prefer their early albums. Strangely enough, even though their later albums had a bit more jazz content to them, I actually prefer their early albums, even now, which are a bit more rockish, but they sound like a band, rather than one or two guys, and a lot of times just Donald Fagen and a million studio guys. And I don't know, some of their later jazzy stuff just doesn't. It's too clinical and clean, and there's no live vibe to it. But it's funny. I found myself getting into it. And I don't listen to vocal music. So back, when Walter Becker passed, I really started listening to a whole bunch of it and, picking out little things that I liked, like the chord changes and the melodies and stuff like that. Mostly the early albums. I rate all of the early albums as better than the later albums, as a matter of fact. The later you get, the lower you get in my ranking, anyway, of the quality of them. So that's my shocker. That's my shocker for the Steely Dan box set. And I'll do a shocker every time I show a box set. I'll pull out something that you probably don't think I have or would listen to. But I'm only going to show the ones I actually did listen to. I got a few box sets that didn't really get played at all. Okay, so I've gone on for about a half hour already. It's longer than I intended. And it's hot, it got, we hit the 80s for a while, which felt cool compared to the mid-90s, but now we're kind of back into the 90s, and even out here it's kind of, it's hot. I'm starting to sweat, and, man, am I upset. This Bill Evans got smashed, got ruined. Just from falling, like the 3 feet. Of course, it hit a concrete garage floor. It sawed off the top of that, bent both of the corners. I shouldn't have left them out here, but I've left them out. Sorry, Bill. The records inside are fine, and honestly, I probably have. I don't have these albums on CD yet, but I wouldn't listen to the records because my turntable is very noisy, even when it works anyway. So it kind of ruins music. All right, guys. I'll be back soon. Maybe I'll do another box set. Maybe just a random vinyl poll. And if I have anything interesting to talk about, I'll do that as well. Thanks for watching. See you soon.
Tune in next time for more
Tales from the Garage.